In the final years of the 16th century, deep in the heart of West Africa, an empire larger than all of Western Europe stood on the brink of destruction. The Songhai Empire, master of the Niger River, heir to the legends of Mali and Ghana, was about to face a weapon the continent had never seen before. Not a king, not an army, but the future itself. Across the burning sands of the Sahara, thousands of foreign soldiers marched toward Gao, armed with gunpowder, cannons, and a new kind of warfare. What followed was one of the most shocking defeats in African history, the moment when the greatest empire of West Africa fell not from weakness, but from a single catastrophic battle.
The March Across the Sahara. In late 1590, a Moroccan army under Judar Pasha, a Spanish-born eunuch raised in the Sultan's palace, set out from Marrakesh. But unlike any African army before them, they carried muskets, arquebuses, and small cannons. Their numbers were small, barely 4,000 men, including arquebusers, cavalry, slaves, and criminals forced into service. But their power did not lie in numbers. It lay in gunpowder, a technology Songhai had almost never encountered. The Moroccan force marched across the Sahara, suffering thirst, heat, hunger, and death. Over a third of them nearly perished before reaching the Niger Bend. But what survived was a compact, disciplined, musket-bearing force that could defeat armies many times its size. Songhai, meanwhile, was in chaos. A kingdom divided. Askia Mohammad the Great, the man who built the empire, was no longer in power. He had been overthrown decades earlier by internal rivals. In his place stood Askia II, a ruler caught in the middle of court disputes, rebellions, and regional tensions. When word reached Gao that a foreign army had crossed the Sahara, the empire was stunned. No one believed it was possible. No one believed such a force could survive the desert. But the threat was real. Askia II gathered a massive army. Tens of thousands of soldiers, cavalry, archers, spearmen, and riverboats lining the Niger. It was one of the largest forces West Africa had ever seen. What the Askia did not know was that size no longer mattered. Gunpowder would rewrite the rules of war. The road to Tondibi. The two armies met near a place called Tondibi, just north of Gao, in early 1591. The Niger River shimmered like a blade under the sun, separating two worlds about to collide. Songhai forces stretched across the horizon, warriors in leather armor, shields raised, bows ready, horses restless. Their generals believed absolute size would overwhelm the Moroccans. The Moroccans advanced in tight formations, muskets loaded, cannons positioned, drums beating. Both sides prepared for a battle that would determine the fate of West Africa. The Battle of Tondibi, Songhai's final stand. The battle began with a Songhai cavalry surge, thousands of horsemen charging with terrifying speed, dust rising like a storm. Behind them came the infantry, roaring ancient war cries that had conquered kingdoms for centuries. But the Moroccans stood firm.
The first line of arquebusiers knelt. The second line stood behind them. The cannons locked into position. And then the desert thundered.
The muskets fired in synchronized bursts, releasing clouds of white smoke. The cannons roared, tearing gaps into the Songhai charge. Horses collapsed. Warriors fell before reaching the Moroccan line. The sound alone terrified many who had never heard gunpowder in their lives. Songhai, desperate, tried an ancient tactic. They drove a massive herd of cattle toward the Moroccan line, hoping to break their formation. But the Moroccans simply fired. The animals panicked, turning back and trampling the Songhai front ranks. The battle was over in less than a day. Songhai, the largest empire in African history, had been defeated not by strategy or numbers, but by technology. Gunpowder ended 1,000 years of West African dominance. The fall of an empire. In the weeks after Tondibi, Gao was abandoned, Timbuktu surrendered, Djenné fell soon after. The Moroccan army, shocked by how quickly Songhai collapsed, marched almost unoccupied into the empire's greatest cities. Askia II fled into the countryside, trying to rally resistance, but his voice could no longer command the empire. The provinces broke into fragments. Governors declared independence. Generals carved out their own kingdoms. Rival Askias emerged, each claiming the throne. Songhai did not fall in a single moment. It shattered, piece by piece, until nothing recognizable remained. The Moroccan army soon discovered that conquering the empire was easier than ruling it. They were too few, too far from home, and too hated. Their supply lines across the Sahara were impossible to maintain. Eventually, they became isolated rulers of a land they couldn't control. But the era of great Sahelian empires, Ghana, Mali, Songhai, had ended. None would ever rise again to their former glory. Yet, even in defeat, Songhai did not disappear entirely. Remnants of the royal family fled south and east, founding small successor states that preserved fragments of the old culture. Scholars continued their work in Timbuktu and Djenné. The people lived on, carrying the memory of a kingdom that had once dominated West Africa. Songhai's fall was not the end of a people, only the end of an era. An era shaped by trade, gold, rivers, deserts, and the extraordinary ability of African civilizations to adapt, expand, and create lasting legacies. Today, the ruins of Gao, the manuscripts of Timbuktu, and the oral histories of Niger and Mali still whisper the story of an empire that stretched farther than the mind can see and fell faster than anyone believed possible. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Africa's greatest empires, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves real African history. Your support helps bring forgotten stories like this back to life.